Okay, so what if I told you that there's somebody out there that's spending 1.5% of the $2 million a year that Bryan Johnson is spending on his health, and he's actually getting better results than Bryan is? This is Dave Pascoe. He's a biohacker that spends $30,000 a year and is currently ranked above Bryan Johnson in the Rejuvenation Olympics. Here's a picture of Dave and Bryan next to each other. I want you to pause for a second and guess how old Dave is. The answer? He's 61 and he's about to turn 62. In this video, we're going to explore some of the habits and practices that have helped Dave slow his speed of aging. In the video, I'll try some of the food he eats. We'll talk about his exercise protocol. A quick side note, if you look at the media attention that Dave has gotten, people will spin it like Bryan and Dave have some sort of beef and they're in some sort of competition. In reality, it's not really like that. At the end of the video, we'll talk about some of the major differences between Dave and Bryan. So if you're interested in that, make sure to stick around. Most effective biohackers build their protocols around 3 core elements: diet, sleep, and exercise. Typically, these protocols are designed to maximize the benefits that you can get from these core elements. For instance, I've noticed a number of biohackers cutting back on caffeine recently because of the negative impact it can have on deep sleep. Another common example would be increasing protein in one's diet in order to enhance exercise performance. That being the case, I want to focus on diet, exercise, and sleep interventions in Dave's protocol. So first up is diet. For breakfast, it looks like Dave starts most days with a green banana. You might be wondering, why would he eat a green banana versus a ripe banana? There are 2 main reasons for this. First is green bananas have less sugar content, and the second is they have more resistant starch. And resistant starch could potentially help with blood sugar management. Weekdays, Dave also has some of his chia nut berry bowl. Now, he's put a rough recipe for this on his website. After I film this, I'm gonna go make it and I'll let you know how it is. Welcome to the kitchen. Today we're making Dave Pascoe's chia nut berry bowl. Now, I don't have every single ingredient that he lists out, and I don't believe that he uses all of these every time he makes his chia nut berry bowl. So I'm gonna do my best with the things that I have. The first thing that I'm doing right now is I'm weighing out a bunch of different nuts and seeds. So I've got sunflower seeds, walnuts, cashews, pumpkin seeds, almonds, pistachios, organic hemp seeds that I'm weighing out here, pine nuts, and flax seeds. We got about 30 grams of flax seeds on there, and then all of these are about 30 grams. So I'm gonna put them all into the food processor and give it a light mix together. I don't want them to be so chopped up that they're not crunchy at all. I'm trying to get it into kind of a chunky texture, almost like granola. Let's go ahead and do this. At the time of making this, Dave doesn't actually have the ratios that he uses of these nuts listed on his website. So I'm just trying to do a few little pulses here because I don't want to go too crazy. Check that out. That's about the texture that I'm looking for. Okay, so for the next part of this, I'm gonna make the chia seed mixture. I'm gonna mix this all up in my Vitamix here. I've got organic unsweetened almond milk here, and I'm gonna take this and put 2 cups of this in here. Now, again, on his website, Dave doesn't have exact measurements listed out. We're gonna start with 2 cups. We can always add more later. And then I've got these organic chia seeds here. I think these are from Costco. I'm going to use 4 tablespoons or 1/4 of a cup. So on his website, Dave mentions that he puts in beetroot powder, mangosteen powder, and a bunch of other stuff. I don't necessarily have all that, so I'm just gonna do my best with what I have. He lists nutritional yeast as an ingredient, and for some reason to me, that just doesn't sound like it would go well with this. He also says that he puts a ton of spices in there. Like, the list is extensive. He even lists garlic as one of the spices that he puts in there. And then right after garlic, it says dash, no, exclamation point, yek, exclamation point. Garlic on this was horrible. So I think that the list of spices that he puts are just random things that he'll put in sometimes. It almost sounds like Dave's just chilling in his kitchen and he's like, I got some onion powder. Let's see how this tastes in here. I'm not gonna put in all the seasonings, but I will be putting in about 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, about 1/4 of a teaspoon of clove, about 1/2 teaspoon of coriander, a full teaspoon of ginger. I'm gonna put in 1/2 teaspoon of caraway seeds, and hopefully those will get chopped up pretty well. All right, let's give this another blend. I'm gonna really let this blend up so that hopefully we get all those spices really well incorporated. Dave uses spirulina to sweeten his. I don't have any, so I'm gonna use raw organic honey in mine. I'm gonna put in roughly a tablespoon of that. Okay, so next up, I'm gonna be using these fresh raspberries. Again, Dave doesn't put portions in. Yeah, I like to buy these from Costco because I feel like they're just a really good deal. If I'm on Bryan Johnson's diet, then I'll put them in nutty pudding sometimes. I'm just gonna eyeball this in the spirit of Dave Pascoe. Probably a cup of blueberries. This is the current state of the chia nut berry bowl. I'm gonna go ahead and pour this in. Okay, we're gonna put this in a bowl. I'll do a taste test and we'll see how it is. This is the chia nut berry bowl. I topped it with a tablespoon of hemp seeds, some more frozen blueberries, and a tablespoon of olive oil. Give it a taste. This is really good. It's a bit different. It's kind of unlike anything I've ever had. I think the spice combination with all the nuts, I mean, it's just interesting. It's like a mix between granola and muesli, but it tastes healthier and not quite as sweet. You know what could be good in here is a little bit of citrus, like a little bit of orange juice or something. I think that would just add this, I don't know, really nice note to it. It's good though. I'll see you guys back in the video. According to his website, Dave only has lunch a few times a week. It typically includes some sort of seafood. Specifically, he includes one or more of the following: 1 can of Wild Planet sardines, 1 can of Matisse mussels, 1 can of Crown Prince oysters, or 1 can of Wild Planet mackerel. And it looks like he'll have this with some avocado, fruit, celery, hummus, and some bone broth. According to his website, he'll try to have dinner between 3 and 5 p.m., no later than 6 p.m. though. And there are 3 main components to his dinner. 1, a large salad. 2, some sort of meat. He goes into more detail on this in his website, but he'll have either some chuck roast, meat that's been grilled in an infrared grill, or pressure cooked chicken breast. The 3rd component of his dinner is a side, usually of sweet potato, squash, mushrooms, rice, or steamed broccoli. Dave notes that he usually douses these sides in grass-fed butter. His dinner actually sounds pretty good to me. I would like to give some of these things a try. He's got a rough recipe for the salad that he makes on his website, so if you're interested in seeing that, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Other foods that I found mentioned on his website: he has a pre or post-workout shake. In the evenings, it looks like he'll eat some kiwi and some pistachios before bed. A few other things to note on Dave's diet: it looks like from time to time he'll do an extended fast, and sometimes he'll eat in a specific interval, but I don't think he's super strict with that. That's something that I would love to ask him about and get more clarification on. He doesn't restrict his calories though, which is interesting because it seems like a lot of people in the longevity space are pretty bullish on caloric restriction. Something that I appreciate about Dave is that he's pretty flexible with his diet. When I started following Dave on Instagram, he was on vacation in Italy and he was posting the most amazing looking food, like pasta and breakfast and just amazing looking Italian food. I just read up on him and I was seeing that he was beating Bryan Johnson in the Rejuvenation Olympics. I was like, wait a second, am I following the right guy? Like, how is this dude beating Bryan? That's something that I appreciate about him, because I feel like a lot of people in the longevity space are a little bit cagey about cheat meals and things like that, but I think it's cool that he'll just put that out there. Now, I will also say that it doesn't appear that he normally eats like that. It seems like normally his diet is pretty dialed in. If you'd like to see a deep dive on Dave's diet where I actually go and try all the foods and make a bunch of the different recipes that he has, then let me know in the comments, because I'll actually consider making that. Next, let's talk about Dave's exercise protocol. Like a lot of people in the longevity space, Dave's exercise routine boils down to 3 simple components. The first is cardio, then we have strength, and then we have stability. On his website, Dave notes that for cardio, he likes to go on a run outdoors if it's above freezing, and if it's below freezing and there's a lot of snow and ice, then he'll go on a treadmill run indoors. Slipping on ice while running would kind of defeat the purpose of all of the longevity stuff that Dave is doing. So, thumbs up for the treadmill. For strength training, Dave seems to enjoy P90X. It looks like he also does a home fitness program called Tap Out XT, and sometimes he'll do P90X's Ab Ripper X. I've tried most of P90X's workouts in the past. In fact, I really enjoy Ab Ripper X, but I've never done Tap Out XT. So I decided to look into it a little bit, and let's just say it's a little bit suspicious. For stability training in the evenings, he'll use a Bosu ball. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's basically one of those things that looks like an exercise ball that's cut in half and has a platform on one side of it. And then he also uses a Fitter First Extreme Balance Board Pro. This thing looks kind of like a seesaw that you stand on. It looks intense. While researching this video, I was watching some of the videos that Dave had posted on his Vimeo channel. He's 61, okay? And in one of his videos, he puts on a 30-pound weighted vest and he reps out elevated push-ups like they're nothing. I mean, this dude's in good shape. Next, let's talk about Dave's sleep routine. Dave likes sleep tracking. He tracks his sleep with not 1, but 4 sleep trackers. He uses a Whoop, a Garmin, an Oura Ring, and his 8 Sleep Pod 3. He notes on his website that his target is 8 hours of actually being asleep. Now, I don't know what his sleep onset latency is or how much time he spends awake throughout the night, but I'm guessing he gives himself 8.5 to 9 hours of sleep opportunity every night. The reasons that he cites for focusing on sleep are to remove waste products from his brain and to facilitate bodily repair. So here are a few things that I picked up from Dave's website that he does to get better sleep. First of all, he eats an early dinner. He typically eats between 3 and 5 p.m. 2, he has his home equipped with smart lighting that shifts red in the evening and progressively dims after the sun sets. 3, the TVs and screens in his house shift red after dark. 4, it looks like he wears blue light blocking glasses as well to minimize blue light exposure. 5, before he goes to bed, he does a fairly extensive oral and skincare routine. Now, I don't know if that's directly linked to sleeping better, but I do know that I always sleep better when I do those things before bed. 6, he does a session before bed on a beamer mat, which is essentially a device that uses a technology called PEMF to enhance blood circulation. The final thing he does before he falls asleep is pray and review his blessings until he falls asleep. To wrap the video up, let's talk about the differences between Bryan Johnson and Dave Pascoe. I think they actually have more in common than most people think. They both enjoy intense workouts, they're both single, they both prioritize eating a healthy diet, and they both really like their supplements and peptides. Now, there are some differences. For instance, Bryan Johnson is calorie restricted, whereas Dave doesn't pay attention to calories. And I'm sure you can think of a lot of other differences between them. But I think the big difference boils down to this. Dave has more of this hacker, do-it-yourself mindset. I think this might come from his background as a network security engineer. Bryan, on the other hand, seems to have more of an innovator, entrepreneurial approach to longevity. I mean, he outsources a lot of his protocol. Like, he doesn't make his own food. He has a team of 30 medical professionals that are assisting him, and everything he does is really branded. Like, he comes up with names for all of his food. He calls it the Blueprint Protocol. He's got this motto of don't die. Bryan has almost made his brand of longevity a little bit cult-like. Dave, on the other hand, just seems to be a really passionate, genuine dude that's interested in living his best life. I'm curious to know what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.